Hey Vitthal, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Alright, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Very, very, very excited and happy about this. Yeah, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, and by the way, it's pleasure for me to have you here. Right, I saw
Thank
your
you.
one of your live stream with Atul a long time back,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
those slides you presented there, and I've been a fan from
Ah,
that moment. So I mean, really
means
excited
so
to know
much.
your journey. Really excited to know how did you become a designer, and obviously we'll talk about your current thing at Cred and how what you do and all that. But yeah, let's
Sure,
start with
sure.
the big question, right? How did
Yeah.
you become a designer?
Sure. S- uh, Again, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've been very much looking forward to it. We've been having back and forth for a while when to do this, and finally today is the day. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah, and how did I become a designer? So it's a very it's now that I talk a lot to people because in India, design is, I'll be very honest, it's a new field, right? So
Hmm.
पहले पहले मुझे लगता था like because when I met a lot of people who were in design college. By the way, I am from a design college, so I'll just say when I met a lot of people who were in design college, that time I thought मेरी story कितनी unique है. And I think once I meet people who are not designers by college professional degree से, then you realize, oh, I just have a very common story like a lot of people in our country. So yeah, my story is that I was a proper I'm a Noida boy. I live in Noida, like my parents ke sath. I mean, I'm in Bangalore for the past 4 years, but my home is in Noida. And in Delhi, you have a very template way of going through life that you make sure that you score above 95% in 12th, and then you get into Delhi University. And then वहां पे just do any degree in Delhi University because Delhi University ka thappa is like the most important thing in your
DU.
life. DU, you need DU in your life. So I think that is how I was also. All of us, most of the people around me, everyone is fighting for that. And I think my parents, it's a typical thing that in 10th tak I was always okay at studies. I was never bad, but I was never ever good at all. And so I was always a proper average kid. So for me, I think till 10th you do get marks, so you're like ठीक है science ले लेते हैं, physics chemistry ठीक ही थी यहाँ तक. And then I remember this one time I took science in 11th, and I think vectors ka topic chal raha tha, and I remember this teacher asking, I still remember that question so well. It was about the fact that someone is walking with an umbrella, and at
Hmm.
some angle the rain is falling, and then something to do with vectors, and this is and question tha us pe. And I still remember that time in college I was just looking at the teacher and I was like, ये क्या पढ़ रहा हूँ मैं यार, ये तो मेरे को कर, like I was just like, ये तो like
It's
I
in
don't
school या
understand this.
college? Where was this?
This is school 11th
School,
में
अच्छा. 11th
and I
में.
was
You
like
chose
11th
science.
में I chose science, and then because and 11th का science और 10th के science में बहुत फर्क है, and no
Okay.
one tells you this. And I remember in the first 4 months, I remember that question. I was like, यार ये तो मेरे को समझ ही नहीं आ रहा. And my parents had a typical. So my dad's a CA, chartered accountant. He has his own practice in Delhi.
Respect for him.
And so way too much, honestly. So
Accountant
it
here
was.
who wanted to be a CA and failed. So I respect CA a
Oh,
lot.
that is my story. That is my story.
Command me. But yeah.
That is basically what I'm going to tell you. So yeah, my dad is a CA and he's a chartered accountant by profession, and he's a CA who did science, and then he realized that unko engineering nahi karni hai, so he then started learning accountancy commerce and got into CA. So he told me do the same thing, like do science. Science is great. If you don't like engineering, then you always, I have a practice in CA to CA पढ़ लियो. And I feel like at 11th में you don't have the brains to understand that. You're like हाँ कर लेंगे, आपने कर लिया तो मैं भी कर ही लूंगा. So then I just flying to do that. And I remember 6 months into science, I realized this is not me at all. And I told my dad मैं CA कर लूंगा, मैं commerce के through कर लेता हूँ. And he said ठीक है तो तू ये कर ले. So then I was like ठीक है, and I took commerce. And what I needed to realize was that basically मेरा डर हमेशा numbers का था, and commerce में भी numbers है, accounts has numbers. And that is something I realized much later, and obviously I was never good with accounts. But then I followed that template, and in 12th I clearly didn't get 95 plus, so DU was not an option for me. But my dad told me, "Koi nahi, go join CA coaching directly. You just start CA right now." And that's what I did. Like
what is the first
CPT,
exam?
CPT,
CPT, no?
CPT,
Yeah.
CPT. Yeah, CPT.
You can get
So
2 attempts or 4 attempts in CPT. What are the attempts numbers? CPT, I think 2 or 3 kuch hai. But
I actually don't know the attempt. I can just tell you. So CPT, by the way, is considered to be the simplest exam in that entire
the
journey.
easiest, because वो
The
inter, like just to
easiest
get in
exam
the
क्योंकि वो
college only.
entrance है. Yeah. And clearly, although I remember like CPT first attempt happened, I failed miserably. And while my friends have all joined colleges, उनका first year चल रहा है, I was like, ये क्या हो रहा है life में, ये वो. And then my dad is like, कुछ नहीं होता, मैं इतनी बार fail हुआ था CA में, तू भी कर लेगा, तो entrance ही है, क्या हुआ? And I remember then 6 months you have to wait for the next exam. I had to reappear in the entrance, and I failed again. And I think that time I lost all hope in life. Ki what is going on? Ye wo. It was just one of those things where I realized everyone who was with me in school.
You were doing coaching also, if I'm not wrong, at that time, right?
I was doing coaching. Yeah.
That
I was
pressure
going to
is
a proper
different,
coaching center.
bro. That pressure of...
I have lived that life of going to coaching centers and coming back home. And you feel very, very jealous also ki of college life kya hai, doston ki Instagram stories crazy ho rahi hai, ye wo, and you're going to a coaching center and coming back home. So that life I lived for a year, and I think second attempt ke baad I just told my dad ki bhai this is not me. And then there was a lot of लड़ाइयाँ वड़ाइयाँ, प्लेटें तोड़ी है हमने एक दूसरे पे, ऐसे वो सब चीजें हुई है घर पे.
नोएडा में आप लोग थे ना?
नोएडा में, we lived in Noida.
Yeah, not surprised.
Noida.
Okay. I'm surprised कट्टा निकल के नहीं आया, but okay.
नहीं कट्टा वाला सीन नहीं हुआ, पर लड़ाइयाँ बहुत हुई.
I'm sorry for the stereotype, but
अरे करो आराम से करो, कोई सीन नहीं. But yeah, like वही था. It took my dad a while, and then he asked me कि ठीक है फिर करना क्या है, and I didn't have an answer for that because I just realized I never wanted to do that. And so then my friends recommended me that there's this thing called a career counselor. Go to that person. ये तेरा 4-5 psychology tests लेंगे, and then they will tell you what to do. And because I was so hopeless in life, I was like, ठीक है ये भी try कर लेते, क्या ही जा रहा है. So I went to a career counselor, and I don't remember her name, but I thank her every day because I went to her, and then she told me that, okay, these are some psychology tests, and I attempted all of them. And then I think she had like 5-6 options for me to choose, and one of them was communication design, and I had zero clue about design in general because I have two friends. One of them was an architect, the other one was also an architect, but I could that's the closest I had to anyone to design at that point. Architect is also a form of engineering only. So I told them like they are recommending me this course, so they're like, oh yeah, we know about this course, and then I started researching. And then when I read communication design is basically an amalgamation of visual design, typography, UI, UX, filmmaking, photography. And that's when I realized basically, ye sab jo cheezein hain, this is all the stuff that I just have saved on my Pinterest board. I used to make Pinterest board that time also. And I used to gift people. I used to make gifts by myself to people. I was always I'm never good at sketching or anything, but I like to create things by myself. And and because of that, I had a lot of inspiration on Pinterest. And also I just realized all the things that I saved on my Pinterest are things that my career is just calling out somehow to me, ki you should do this. So I think it was just an awakening where I told my dad that mujhe ye karna. And he's like, what do you know about it? I was like, I don't know anything, but I have to do this.
This is the first time I'm hearing about counselor, like career counselor. Like I've heard this in Friends series, right? The TV series, I've heard about this concept. In movies, I've heard about this concept. Yeah. But in real life, this is the first time I'm hearing it, like someone actually going there and actually it working, right? Because it found something you'll...
I तो went legit like a वो होता है कि पंडित के पास चले जाओ कुछ. मैं तो उसी mindset से गया था कि ये चलने वाला है नहीं, but I am so hopeless in life. If someone can give me 1% of direction also, I'll go. But she recommended me something amazing, and that's when I got to know. And then I think NID, by the time I realized मुझे ये करना है, NID and NIFT दोनों का entrance चला गया था, and I could not wait to drop one more year. So then Pearl Academy was the only college I was left with its last entrance. Like they also have an entrance like last in क्या बोलते हैं, what is that, admission. So I applied for that, and I got through. And bas uske baad then I entered design college, and design college is another struggle and story altogether, but that's how I realized like that is who I am, and this is what I'm going to be. In like I think first 3 weeks of college, I realized like this is where I belong, and mostly everyone around me all of them were people who had actually decided to study design. So none of them were like, ki, for me, it was like commerce, where I have to score great in economics, I have to score great in accounts. All of them had come from that mindset ki we are amazing at art, we are amazing at sketching, and they had taken 2 years of coaching for NIFT and NID. So these are very skilled people who are around.
Self-aware also.
Proper self-aware कि यही करना है life में. And I was around those people and I was intimidated on the first day, but it just felt like this is where I am. It's okay if मैं class पे top भी ना करूँ या कुछ भी, I don't need to do that. But this is my calling is what I realized, I think, in 3 weeks over there. And yeah, I think after that, I think 4 years of college has been one of the most amazing. I think I though personally, I don't feel like you ever need a college to learn or understand design. But I think college for me as an individual, because of my story, shaped a lot what I know about design today. So if anyone actually asks me, should I do a design college, I always say, listen, मैं पहले ही बोल रहा हूँ, ज़रूरी नहीं है. You will. I know 10 designers, and the people who, most of them who I look up to, are not even designers by degree. But if you want to, it's going to be one of the craziest ways because your outlook of design is very different. So after that, I kind of realized that, 4 years of college was amazing. And I think by the end of college, placements is when everything starts happening. And in design college, you just have this thing of joining design studios, because we during our 3 years of internships, you join design studios and agencies as well. And I had worked at an agency, and I had taken a hint and bite of what that is, and I had seen that life also. So that's when I kind of realized कि मुझे कुछ, like, I've seen an agency, अगर यहीं पे जाना है, I will go there again. Might as well try something new. And that time, Accenture was one of the first companies that had come for placements at
in college.
And then I was just like, okay. But then it was for a UI UX design thing. So you can, in the 4 years of college, first year is foundation, where everyone, fashion design, interactive design, everyone does the same thing. And then the last 3 years is when you do different things. And in the third year, you are asked, do you want to go into UI UX, which is interaction and everything, or do you want to stay in brand? And then I chose brand and illustrations because that's where I always felt my calling was. And मैं वहाँ पे गया, and then after that I just was like कि अच्छा, if I want to do this, I really enjoy brand and ये वो, but I really want to own very expensive gadgets also. I want to do this stuff also. मेरे को बहुत अच्छा घर, मेरे को एक setup बनाना है, मेरे को ये सब कर रहा है. And I kind of realized that at that point of time,
एक सेकंड ब्रांड से भी हो जाता है, ठीक है, इतना
नहीं, मैं वो नहीं बोल रहा, but उस समय let's just say 2018 में इतनी अच्छी हालत नहीं थी इंडस्ट्री की when it comes to paying. तो I was like, यार, तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि उस समय I was like, यार, ये तो नहीं करना है. And then I remember a friend of mine who did choose in college only, who did choose the UI UX path. He said, Accenture आया हुआ है, and you should apply. And I saw how much they were paying. I was like, oh, this is great, yaar. ये तो मैं शायद से सोच भी नहीं पाता to start off with. And then I was like, चलो घुस जाते हैं इसमें. And yeah, that's when I did. I applied to Accenture, and luckily I got through, like, 4 people they selected. And I was one of them. And it was one of the most fantastic interviews. In the interviews, they got to know that I don't have, like, people in portfolio rounds are showing portfolios of UI UX. I'm showing illustrations. देखो, ये logo बनाया मैंने, ये वो. And I think it was the beauty in the people who interviewed me that they saw that this guy can be trained. इसमें potential है, इसको train कर लेंगे हम. And whatever my first job was Accenture, 2.5 years from 2019 to 2021 end. I worked there, and I was in Accenture through COVID. First year 2019 I was in office. 2020 onwards I was working from home for Accenture.
I want to know when you presented your father with the first salary check, right? Because I mean, he would figure it out. He's a CA. He would do your taxes, right?
Yeah.
So what was his response? Because he obviously, like,
I think he came to terms last year of. So the beauty about parents in general is if they don't agree with you, they will still support you no matter what. So the thing so my dad is always this person who will advise me, ये सही है, ये गलत है, पर तेरे को जो करना है कर ले. मतलब he came to this realization that ये इसकी journey है, and let him go through it. If he has to fight his battles, he will go through it. Through his journey, I'll support him. But I'll make sure I advise him at every step what I think is right and wrong. And throughout my journey, even though he's not...
that's a good father, right? So the parenting... I have a 2-year-old, right? And the way I was, like, brought up, and I'm gonna also bring him up as, like, try to do is कि करो तुम ठोकर खा उसके बाद आना, पहले तो नहीं,
हाँ,
क्योंकि
उसके
पहले
बाद आना, या
उसके बाद ठोकर खा के तुम लाइक यू गेट यू लर्न द हार्ड वे, बट एटलीस्ट है बैकअप है, पर सीख के आओ, तुम ही मार
फॉर श्योर,
बचाने कोई
फॉर
नहीं
श्योर.
जाएगा, मार खा के आओ, फिर मालूम चलेगा लड़ाई नहीं करनी चाहिए.
Really, I think that, well, I mean, that parenting worked for me, honestly. I still believe it's a beautiful way of parenting. And as you're saying, if you want to go ahead with that, you have my proper support for that.
Yeah,
one.
I'm so gonna do it. Like, पूछने के वजह से थोड़ा cancel हो जाऊंगा, but that's a different story. But हाँ, coming back to your, how was his response and?
Yeah, so I think he made up his mind 5-6 months of, I think so foundation years when they make you do this thing where they want to perfect you from the ground up. So I remember the first class was they asked us to buy a A3 sheet ka bundle pura, and first class of design school is take a pencil and start drawing lines.
Lines,
and keep on perfecting till your line is straight. And this thing goes on for 1 week. And I remember 1 week ke end tak everyone was able to, like, because it was a proper Karate Kid thing where you keep on doing till you have reached that level. And I remember my dad, and then wahi homework mein bhi mila tha. So I remember my dad on the first night coming and seeing that मैं line draw कर रहा हूँ. And I remember ऐसा disappointed look on his face कि ये मैं fees दे रहा हूँ इस चीज के लिए. And I remember telling him कुछ नहीं होता, चिंता मत करो. That night also we had a fight, but
your father is like vertical line draw करके इसमें table लिख दे कुछ.
It was like, I remember him just being disappointed that time, and then fast forward to 6 months or 7 months later, I think he could see that I'm very happy with what I do. To which I think I learned driving in the second year of college. That's when I started driving. So he used to drop me to college in the first year every morning, and because the college was like 20 minutes away from my house in Noida only. So he used to tell me कि जाते वक्त he asked me एक दिन just कि whatever way I can help you, please do let me know. And even if it is, no matter how much it is financially also for me, I can take a loan, I can do whatever, but I'll make sure that मेरी तरफ से as a parent मैंने सब कुछ कर लिया है. And I think I remember just like us time में Googling all these things that, there's things like summer schools in US and ye wo. So I told him that college first year khatam hone wala hai. I feel like during the summer break, I really would like to go to New York to learn graphic design at Parsons. And to prove that thoda ye hoga tha that luckily in the first year of college ke first semester I topped
good marks
over there for the first time in my life. I topped the semester. So I think that gave him a lot of confidence. So I told him that I think during the summer course, I would like to apply for this. You let me know if it's possible. And he said, ho jayega, to bas apply kar. And luckily I went, it's a very simple process. You literally have to just pay fees. Koi test nahi, and I went for it. And yeah, I think that really helped me a lot during that time to understand design, because that time it's not that you're just surrounded by people in India. I was surrounded by just people within my class. And once you go abroad and you start seeing because wahan pe design 100 saalon se hai. So wahan pe it's like any other degree. So for me, that time seeing that level of people and seeing what immense talent of people I'm surrounded by. So I think that also gave me a lot of perspective to how much I have to push myself harder. So my parents supported me throughout this entire journey. And I think, yeah, as you said, like what was his reaction? I think when I finally got the job, that day I could properly see that, okay, he's very happy about the fact that chalo, it was like ye kuch kar lega, but okay, he's doing something of his own. And I think that day ke baad he's never looked back. He's just been very, very happy and
profit
proud.
And loss mein thoda profit kar do credit. Here's an M.Com guy, so I make account jokes all the time.
I'm very happy. I'm very glad to hear that, by the way.
So first, okay, coming back to the first year you did college, you went to the summer. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So you went to a summer internship or training program.
It was a summer. It was a summer training program for 3 weeks at Parsons School of Design in New York. So I went over there and understood graphic design at a very ground up level, like 3 weeks mein whatever they could teach and whatever they could understand. It was surrounded by amazing faculty around, and people around the world had come for it. So met a lot of people, a proper exchange program feels like, understood a lot of design from different countries. And I think that really, thing changed my perspective about design on a very, very different level. Made me realize that things are just not amounted to one class of 30 people. There's a lot to do in your profession also. So I think that just pushed me harder. Like I just, मैं बहुत खुश था कि मेरे को तो डिजाइन कुछ आता है नहीं और मैंने टॉप भी मार लिया फर्स्ट ईयर में, और क्या चाहिए जिंदगी में, पापा भी खुश है. But I think it was just a proper reality check that this is not a field where 2 plus 2 is 4. It's 2 plus 2 can be 5 for someone, it could be 1 for someone. So yeah, I think you gotta, that was basically it. And yeah, that was my first year of college. Second year was again like photography, filmmaking is when they introduced us to filmmaking. I'm a huge lover for film and photography at a very, very core of my heart. And I think filmmaking also interested me. And then second year मैंने पापा को फिर से बोला, अच्छा, you like supporting me ना, अब मेरी बात सुनो, समर फिर से समर ब्रेक आने वाला है.
As a parent, I'm feeling bad कि यार ठीक है, इतना फायदा नहीं उठाना चाहिए, but
मैं तो बहुत shamelessly उठा रहा था फायदा, because I was like, ठीक है, अब support करना है तो अच्छे से.
What else kids are for, right?
I mean, of course. और मैं तो सिंगल चाइल्ड हूँ, उनको तो मतलब और कोई टेंशन भी नहीं है मेरे अलावा, तो आई एम अ सिंगल चाइल्ड.
क्यों बचा रहा, मेरे पास ही आना है, अभी दे दो.
मेरे पास ही आना, मेरे को ही अभी शुरू कर लो. मतलब सेव करने का पॉइंट क्या है, यू आर ऑलमोस्ट 50 नाउ, तो मैंने बोला कि अब मेरे पे ही खर्चा कर दो. And then second year में I because they introduced us to filmmaking, and I understood, I really like that part of the field also. So then I said मेरे को summer school जाना है फिर से, but इस बार मुझे filmmaking में summer school देखना है. I want to know what that world is like. So then I applied to UCLA. वहाँ पे एक like little entrance था where they had given us some topic and I had to write a script on that, like a 100-200 word का script लिखनी थी, and I did that and I luckily got through. And so then for 1.5 months का था वो वाला summer course in UCLA. Nice. So I went to UCLA, stayed there for 1.5 months in Los Angeles, and I properly saw a proper film being made. But like first 1 month was them teaching us the entire way of what filmmaking is and how it's done, proper classes. And last half month jo tha, that is when you go through the entire process of actually casting actors, finding the right actors for you, directing, making the movies, editing, and the whole thing. And we had cast actors for our movie and did the whole thing. We actually shot a movie. And yeah, it was another beautiful experience.
That movie is available online, yeah, YouTube pe?
It is on Vimeo, I think. I can share it with you. It's not that, it's a proper student film, but it taught me a lot is what I'll say. And like I was the editor on that final film, and it was just one of those things where for me, what I kind of, because my dad was also at this point of time कि तू करना क्या चाहता है, अभी graphic design में पैसा इतना खर्च करवा दिया, बोल रहा है film making भी करनी है. But I think that was the beauty of the course that I did at Pearl, which is communication design, because the idea of that course is not to teach you logo कैसे बनाना है or like illustration कैसे बनानी है. It's to basically carve your head into a perspective of what art really is or what design really is. It's an umbrella field where you have multiple avenues to go through, and we are just training your brain to understand different parts of creativity. And I think once that brain ka part mera exploded or opened up because of that is, and I see that reflecting in my work every day. It's not like मेरे को UCLA जाना पड़ा to understand that part. I just feel like because I pushed myself to understand filmmaking as a process and all of that, I feel like all of that really amounts to together as to what I do. So being exposed to different fields of creative, that's something I tell a lot of people in design as well, like, because that inspiration does not lie just on Dribbble or Pinterest, because those are great ways to look at it. And I'm not saying मैं Dribbble Pinterest
अरे please be open, sir. It's fine. This is a safe space.
Yeah,
I just like to no need to cover it.
No, it's just a idea of saying that I think it's not it's a very cliche way to say inspiration lies everywhere, but I feel like a lot of things that we should really look forward to is actually try and understand how other fields of design work. So the faida of a design college was that I was surrounded by fashion designers. I was surrounded by proper industrial designers and product designers. I was surrounded by fashion stylist students. So I used to sit on their random classes and just see what's going on. I knew their teachers as well. It was a small college. So because of that, I feel like I was exposed to different fields of design. So for me, design was always an umbrella field. I never saw design as, because when अब मैं जब Twitter खोलता हूँ, it's purely UI, UX and product design is what I see. But for me, I've seen design from a very different perspective. So for me, it was like, I have to take inspiration from this fashion designer also to put it in my work. So for me, it's like the idea is that you can always take inspiration from ready-made stuff, but taking inspiration from other fields of design is so important, because I feel like that no one is doing. And when you do that, it gives a separate level of edge. And it's not, see, it's very easy to say कि but fashion design में मैं किसी का garment देख के UI UX का screen कैसे बना दूंगा. But it's not that. My whole idea is the fact that you need to understand what was the perspective behind how that design ka dress was made, and how can you bring that to your screen? So an example of one of the early things that I did at Cred was that I had made this design for something which looked like a prototype only, like as in a very wireframey format. It does not look like a finished product. It should look like it's like there's no finesse in it. But that was the artistic thing that I approached it with, and that came from the idea that Virgil Abloh, someone I really look up to, he was the creative director at Louis Vuitton, and he had collaboration with Nike where he has his brand Off-White, and he had made Off-White and Nike had collaborated on Jordans, and his Jordans that he came up with, the Jordan 1 ka collection, if you look at it, it looks very much like a prototype. It looks very unfinished in its journey. It looks like something that in the process तुम बोलोगे, I think ऐसा कुछ दिखना चाहिए, and then you will finesse it out more and fine tune it to a very final looking shoe. But he said, "No, let's just keep it this way. This is the final shoe." He wanted it to look like a part of what a process of making a shoe looks like. So I think that philosophy I took up, and I made those screens which looked very much like a wireframe or something that you feel like has not been finished. So I feel like, and that was really appreciated. And I feel like that is when I realized that ये inspiration मेरे को Dribble या Pinterest पे नहीं मिली. This was through someone else's thinking of how they approach design in a very different avenue of design. So that is when I just kind of realized and tell people that because I was lucky enough that my parents supported me in every morally, physically, financially, emotionally, for me to send me abroad and I got exposed to a very different medium of art. And when you see different mediums of art, I feel like your brain gets exposed to a very different way of thinking. And I just like that was all the gyan I had for that.
College. So second year you did filmmaking. You made films.
Second year I did filmmaking. Third year I did go to US because I was like, abhi ruk jate hain thoda, abhi ho gaya hai. Third year was when abhi zyada fayda ut raha hai. I just realized ki third year is when you choose what field of communication where you want to go to, and I chose brand and film, brand and illustrations. And so basically, it's a visual design and graphic design is what I chose as my career point at that point of time, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I just remember we had a UI UX course in second year, where the second year they teach you different avenues so you understand all of these things. I know we had a UI UX ka thing, and in that I had basically made Spotify and SoundCloud ka copy. That was the project that I made. But I remember making the illustrations for it. I remember doing proper typography for it. And I could see that I could align my graphic design and visual design skills in UI UX. And so then when I said that, why should I just restrict myself to the idea of doing, just
this specific industry or category.
This industry of packaging, package design or brand design, when I can use the same skills to actually do something like UI UX. And so I think by the end of third year was just nothing. I just learned more about graphics. And by the end of fourth year, I told myself, you know what, I actually want to venture out in this. When my friend told me ki, by the way, itna package mil raha hai and ye sab salary mil rahi hai Accenture mein, I was like, oh, theek hai, I'll apply for it. And I think that was the awakening ki, why can't I apply it over there? I tried doing that in my second year and I really enjoyed it. Why not venture out in this? And so then I was just like, अब मुझे UI UX के बारे में तो कुछ पता नहीं है, तो मैंने पापा का फिर से फायदा उठा लेते हैं. So मैंने पापा को कॉल किया, मेरे पापा को बोला, सुनो अब कॉलेज खत्म हो गया है और अब मेरे पास टाइम ही टाइम है. And I had got the job at Accenture by this. So Accenture, I think, started around July. So he told me, now that you have all this time in between, I said, मैं वापस US चले जाता हूँ. So then he said, वहाँ पे अब क्या करना है? So I told him that I think that there is this. So I looked up for a lot of conferences around that was happening in UI UX field and properly ये सब चीजों में. But what really intrigued me was that there was this course which talked about neuroscience in the field of design. And it was a 1 week ka course that was taught by a neuroscientist about how design is seen from a perspective of a neuro designer. And like he said, anyone who is interested in UI UX, because they didn't use the term product design at that point. He said anyone who's interested in UI UX can join this. Even if someone's a UX writer, you don't have to be a designer only. If you're a UX writer, you're a UX analyst, please join this course. And ye sab tha. And I researched the professor out, and he was a very big PhD person, and I was like, this sounds interesting. Instead of actually just learning basics of UI UX, which I feel like I can take up a lot of courses online and learn myself, this would be very intriguing. So in choosing I've been very, very lucky in choosing what all courses I would go to abroad also, because मैं research बहुत करता था about कि कहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है. So I went for this was for a 1 week का thing. मैंने पापा को बोला 10 दिन के लिए कर लो ट्रिप, 5 दिन और घूम भी लूंगा. But it was a 10-day का trip where for 1 week I did this. And I think that perspective, because that was my introduction to the field of product design from a very, very different ideology of how someone who studies brain and how he feels about how we react to design, how does our brain react to design in general, and proper medical terms where he's explaining. He really dumbed it down for all of us also. So I think that really helped me and intrigued me to another level, because I was like, okay, this is something that I really, really am looking forward to. And then that's when I joined Accenture finally after that course. मतलब पापा को properly तीन बार in 4 years of course मैं 3 बार बोला मुझे बाहर भेजो, and I don't know how he arranged the funds, but he did, and I'm very, very thankful for him to do that. And yeah, he was able to send me
abroad. Do you know how
all the
many
time.
fake entries he would have to do hawalas for his clients?
अरे I'm pretty sure
No,
कि
we won't talk
मतलब
about that on stream, but
कुछ मतलब कहीं ना कहीं से तो मैं see, he told me on the first day कि मैं तू कुछ भी कर, मैं लोर उठा लूंगा पर मैं तेरे को भेजूंगा. And so I was clearly very
किसी का तो GST ज्यादा कटा है.
तो
no, but यार
I was very, very shameless in that whole thing. I never fought मेरे को भेज दो, but I'm like आपने अगर बोला है मेरे को भेजने को तो ये मेरा यहाँ जाने का वाला है.
मेरा मन नहीं है, but if you are forcing me तो फिर
if you are forcing me, if you want me to be a better designer, तो ये एक चीज है मैं कर सकता हूँ. So then I really use that part a lot.
Now this, when you think back, like sound like a wrong ना, बहुत ज्यादा नहीं करना चाहिए था, but I think
अरे बहुत लगता है. The thing is, I see the value, but do I think it is necessary? No one needs to go through all of that. It is not needed, but it helped me in my journey.
But it is needed. See, I think in this when we obviously look from top level कि हाँ वहाँ पढ़ाई कर रहे थे, तो it feels like कि हाँ जरूरत नहीं है, USA का पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. So I think that is not, it's not important कि तुम US जाके ही पढ़ो, right?
Correct.
But having non-Indian influence, right, or US based or that was influence was really important. I think most of many of the designers I have talked to, like they have influence from Cred, right, who runs design school, right? Future. I also had that same influence. Because it broadens your thought process. It broadens your, like, you understand more things, right? You get more into the deeper side of things than just कि हाँ 500 रुपए the logo बना देंगे. Like just not, that was not the process, right? So I think definitely again, as a parent, I don't like the way you got फायदा उठा रहे थे, but as a former kid, as a kid only, I understand you, that's what you do.
That's what to do. Well, it was, I don't know, man. I'll look for, I'll make sure मैं अपने बच्चे के लिए ये ना करूँ. I think my dad is just too naive into understanding all of this. But I see,
now you're like, your bachcha is like a dad, why?
I just feel like it was one of those things where I was, okay, I'll put it in actual perspective of what I felt. At that point of time, probably my mind was in this situation कि मेरे को, see, I'll be very honest, अगर मैं बहुत थोड़ा deeper और जाऊँ, इस पूरे beer biceps deep हो जाऊँ, तो इस situation में I was in one journey in my 4 years of college that I have to prove to my dad that जो मैंने decision लिया है वो best है. Because I, not only from him, from every relative, everyone around was, because he had his own practice. This word I used to hear all my life, that तू एक सोने की खान छोड़ रहा है. Like my dad has his own practice. You will have clients on the day one and everything, and you're losing out on that. So मेरा ये perspective उस समय था कि I will make sure that मैं तो इस फील्ड में ऐसा करूं कि that मेरे को ये सोने की खान वाला डायलॉग वापस ही सुनना है. That people say चलो इससे जो किया खुश है, he's happy. So I think that at that point of time, obviously because I didn't have money and my dad was my financier, and I'm very lucky that he was that person for me. I made sure if I can do something and he can do for me, I will take advantage of, because I at that point of time, with the brain that I had of a college kid, I thought this would help me. And so I went and I was shameless about asking him कि if you can do this, मैं कभी force नहीं करूँगा, but I feel like this will help. And yeah, I feel like in my journey, I look back at those things a lot. But yeah, a lot of people have messaged me also. अरे आप Parsons गए थे. Should I also go for a summer course? I'll have to tell my dad that, you know, ये करना है. And at that point of time, for me to tell someone नहीं अगर तेरे पापा ready है तो bro कर ले, I can't be that. It's very selective to my journey. So at that point of time, I clearly tell them how it helped me. And if you think this is something that you are okay with, then you should definitely go ahead and ask your parents to help you out. But honestly, I know 10 designers in my life, 50 designers in my life who have not gone through that journey and who are 10x better than I will ever be. So yeah.
No, true. But I think this you brought up a very good point, which I would obviously get more deeper into, which is the society, like the whole society's pressure. Not just obviously like you had your own father's sales business. I had my own father's whole contract business, and people always say that you don't have to do this because you have the setup. But a designer, I think after COVID, and then obviously you product design got some understanding that people now know that it's a business. But before COVID, getting into design, people used to think, either if you're like at my level, low middle class, people would think, photo wala, studio wala banda hai. I think at upper class, people would be like, this person is going to be an artist, or paintings bana ke bechenge, right? So that understanding that this is a real profession, which they were already users of, but because it was not that much available to understand and study college-wise, right? I think NID, NIFT was told, right?
NID. Yeah.
I can tell you till, like, if I tell someone, there's this college called NID or NIFT, they would just think this is for fashion. Because that's the general brand people perceive of that, right?
Of design,
Right? They don't understand that there's so much into it. Like, product digital is obviously a side of thing. There's physical, actual product design. Where you make actual products also. There's also there, right? But I think that is everyone needs to understand that that's going to happen at some level.
And it's still lacking. That education is always like, chahe jo bhi ho, I can say that, I'm very happy as a designer. I feel like I'm doing well for myself. I still, from family people, get the idea कि अगर तो ये करता है, शादी का कार्ड बना ले हमारी बेटी के लिए. ये. So I get those things.
I
still do. I also do it very happily because, see, I just feel like it's not a problem of it's a problem of the fact that they have not been exposed to this idea. So in the mere knowledge that they have, it's very easy to blame them, but I feel like I can understand where it's stemming from. So if in their knowledge I can make them happy, even though I will say I'm a product designer, but if a shadi ka card banake is what I can make them happy for and use my skill, I will do it very happily, because I feel like in their mere world of knowledge, if this is if Vitthal shadi ka card banata hai, that's okay. I'll be very happy. I'll do that for you. मैं कर लूँगा.
Vitthal कंकोत्री छापता है.
For me, it has.
This should
has
be
come
a
to
new
that
designation. Kankotri. Kankotri is a Gujarati word for the card. I'm not sure what is Hindi or what it's called. But Kankotri designer. Just have that as a term. Like digital Kankotri designer. But so you joined Accenture. You worked for there 2.5 years.
2.5 years. December 2021. First job. Yeah, I was there. And first of all, the best part about the job was that I was not just from Pearl. It was Pearl. Noida said it was 4 students. Pearl Delhi said it was 4 students. Like 8 students from overall Pearl. Then Bombay said there was Pearl. Bombay said there were 4 people. So total, I think Pearl all over India there were 12 people who had got through Accenture, and then MIT Design in Pune. Wahan se there were a lot of people. So we were like an influx of, I think, a group of 30-40 people who were just freshers. So we
good
became
peers.
The group of, it was good peers. So that is when my knowledge of design even expanded. And on an India level, I saw a lot of people just from outside Delhi NCR. And that's when I realized the Bombay ka jo scene hai design ka, that's another level pe, I feel. It is, you have people who you cannot stop talking about. That's the kind of designers that you have in Bombay. And so, I met all these people, and I think whatever I feel like I know about UI UX is because of my first job, because that was my introduction to that field in general. And as a product designer, I feel like I really, really am happy that thing happened, because I learned a lot. I genuinely learned a lot on my first job. And I was an Accenture.
So Accenture you did for 2.5 years through COVID.
2.5 years.
So I'm assuming before it was office, then you went remote.
It was office till I think February 2020. So 7 months of going to office, and then uske baad bas work
remote pura.
Yeah.
Okay, so how was that transition, first of all, remote wala in design? Because I also come from office-based design pura setup, right? So we used to after, I think it took me a year of COVID, after COVID, that I got okay with remote work. Because working with people while you are in office, right? Designing something and watching someone do something, like, bro, let me teach you how to do it much better. do this.
Yeah.
You can't do this in virtual, right? So understanding or learning why someone else can't see how you're doing this wrong, make this much better this way, right? So how was that tension first of all? And I think then we'll go into how did you move out of Accenture and where we went with that.
So you're talking like the difference between remote work and like going to office during
in Accenture like company wise.
Yeah. I don't. So in a lot of the work that we were doing over there, I think it was something that I kind of realized, especially is I don't know what other people have as ideas for remote work. For me, I feel like in design, feedback is something that I really look forward to. I need to listen to the person in person and listen to their feedback. Like I just feel like I have another level of respect for the feedback that comes in person, because I am too involved in your eyes looking. अच्छा ये पसंद नहीं आया, ये क्यों पसंद नहीं आया, अच्छा वो इसलिए अच्छा. तो वो जो conversation है ना, वो मेरे लिए बहुत important है. And I feel like remote work really made me slack a lot when it came to that, because I think the idea of taking feedback in person for me was there's another perspective of you saying that you didn't tame yourself according to the norms of remote work. You could have, but now that I go to office, I still clearly believe, I feel like remote work is fine and great and it's very understandable, but for me I feel like I need to be in an office environment around people, and especially forget feedback, brainstorming sessions. I feel like वो तो मैं कभी कर ही नहीं सकता in person. I feel like there was this one time I was in a brainstorming session at Cred where I was working from home that day, and there's like 7 other people and they are in office. तो वो मीटिंग रूम से मेरे साथ बात कर रहे हैं और मैं जिस फोमो में बैठा हुआ था कि वहां पे वो 7 लोग, हाँ विठल सुन रहा है ना, तो सही है ना, हाँ ठीक है, हाँ अंडरस्टूड. तो I realized that the 7 of them are actually having a different level of camaraderie in the idea of sharing that brainstorming versus you being separately. And it is not the fact that they weren't including me. They were very much including me. I just was not physically present. And I feel like in design, when you're especially trying to make a baby, like a 0 to 1 project, especially you're brainstorming it out as hard as you can. For me, that's something I feel like really lacks in remote work, and that's something I felt in Accenture very well, that I wish I was around my peers, I was around my mentor at that point of time, because remote work I feel like lacks that. Accenture tried to do as much as we could. Like I feel like they tried a lot. At one point of time I feel like they were really, and because it was it's a corporate entity, it's an environment, MNC kind of thing, they are making sure that their employees are well and happy. Then they do all these things.
उनके पास है HR टीम पूरी जो काम यही है,
उनके पास पूरा है जो तुमको बोलेगा अच्छा डेस्क सेटअप के लिए चाहिए, टेबल चाहिए, चेयर चाहिए, we are ready to give you need headphones and all of that. So they are willing to do all of that, but it's just I feel like I as a person kind of realize that remote work is just not for me as a person. And
now that you're talking about Cred, right, because I had talked with people, Mayank, Atul and all that, right, and I found out that in Cred you have one floor which doesn't have rooms. You all sit together, right? So branding, UI, UX, developers, you all sit together in a one floor, and you can just go to someone like, I'm making this, can you be able to develop it or not? Right? So,
that you will never find in remote work. वो चीज कभी नहीं हो पाएगा, possible ही नहीं है.
So Accenture में for 2.5 years, and now I'm gonna come into present thoda sa, right, in design ways, because I mean, we know how you become a designer, we know the journey of it. While you make it sound like a बहुत simple journey hai. Even getting into design colleges is like, I'm someone who could not, so I understand, respect that you got into it. But Accenture is very MNC, right? It's very, I'm not going to call it vanilla, but it's very product focused, right? So you have these fixed rules, you got to follow all these, and they design products mostly for bigger companies.
Enterprise. It's your enterprise product.
Yeah, right. So you have to follow, you can't do much into, when I say innovate, but not in the visual side of things, like the brand skill might not get much use because you have to follow a fixed design system and all that, right? Then now you're working in Cred, right? You're designing that slot game, right? And I'm gonna put that on the screen and let people know that's whatever which slot game they would know, right? So for 2.5 years after college, right, you did brand. For 2.5 years, this gap where you're working on these kind of products. Then how did, by the way, first of all, I think before we get into how did Cred happen?
Cred happened. I think I will cover that part up also, is cheese bake, as to why I realized, I think after 2.5 years of Accenture, as you literally just pointed out, it was very enterprise driven products. And I think I had come to a point where I realized, okay, I think I've understood enough to realize that, okay, I love product designing, but I feel like enterprise is not me as a person. was surrounded by people who were अलग लेवल पे. एज आई सेड, एक पॉइंट ना आता है मेरी लाइफ में व्हेन आई फील लाइक मैं रूम में बैठा हूँ एंड 7 लोग मेरे अराउंड आर अलग लेवल पे हाइप्ड अप अबाउट समथिंग, और आई स्टार्ट फीलिंग अरे क्या मुझे ही समझ नहीं आ रहा है क्या, दिस हैपेंड इन 11th.
क्या अलग तुम लोगों ने कुछ अलग रिसा किया क्या, मुझे नहीं मिला है.
अलग की मतलब मेरे को नहीं समझ आ रहा है. एंड आई फील लाइक आई हैड रीच्ड दैट मोमेंट वेयर आई जस्ट फेल्ट लाइक यार पीपल आर रियली एक्साइटेड अबाउट एंटरप्राइज डिजाइन एंड आई एम नॉट. एंड आई थिंक इट जस्ट वाज वन ऑफ दोस थिंग्स वेयर आई काइंड ऑफ फेल्ट लाइक व्हाट माय inner heart mind was craving was that at the end of the day I am still that visual designer who loves to put splash of colors on screen, who loves to make that logo, who loves to make that illustration, and I was not getting to do that.
2.5 years you could not take inspiration from a fashion designer.
Could not take, exactly. I could not
use karoge?
Channel myself. Exactly.
Right.
It was that. I think first 1 year was ठीक. I think last 6 months में I kind of realized that यार वो वाला चीज नहीं हो रहा है. समझ आ गया कि ये कर रहा है लाइफ में, ये कर रहा है, पर ये वाला पार्ट नहीं कर रहा है.
And now you're also a remote setup now, so you can have more time to think on this because वहाँ पे तो at least energies है, so you are in work and things are moving.
That's a perfect thing to sum it up because it was one of those things where I feel like ये enterprise वाला level पे मेरे को नहीं match कर रहा है. And then I went deeper and deeper. So what I started doing was I started like talking to a lot of other people because Bangalore में every तीसरा person is making a startup. So I was just like talking to other people like okay तुम क्या कर रहे हो?
Bangalore में every third person is making.
हाँ कोई ना, अरे यू गो टू अ स्टारबक्स, 4 मीटिंग्स जो चल रही है कोई बंदा स्टार्टअप ही बना रहा है, वो अपनी करंट डे जॉब में लंच टाइम में आया स्टार्टअप बना रहा है. थर्ड वेव में लोग बैठे हुए हैं. सो आई रिमेंबर लाइक मीटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल एंड देन टॉकिंग टू देम अबाउट देयर स्टार्टअप्स एंड आई स्टार्टेड रियलाइजिंग यार इसकी अगर मैं ऐप बनाऊं तो मैं बहुत खुश हो जाऊंगा. ये बिकॉज दे आर मोस्टली B2C प्रोडक्ट्स इज व्हाट दे आर मेकिंग एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई रियलाइज द लैक इज दैट मेरे को B2B में इतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. मेरे को डायरेक्ट टू कस्टमर जो चीजें बनानी, वेयर आई गेट टू यूज माय स्किल ऑफ illustration, where I get to use my skill of typography and I do all of that. I started picturing, oh, iski app I would make this way, or this product I would have made this way or designed this way, which I was not going to do that because at enterprise functionality takes bilkul hi first level and I feel like visual is a very very secondary thing over there. But I wanted to reach to a place where functionality and visual are seen हाथ में हाथ together.
Form and function are together.
Form and function are together. Exactly. So that is where I felt like I need a place where understanding where the value of form is also considered equal to function. And it was just one of those things where I realized I know a lot of people who are enterprise and I think they're very much having fun. This is just not for me. And just एक for monotonous vibe set हो गई थी in my mind that I don't want to do this. And that's when I just started applying for jobs. So I actually gave my papers first and I said like after that during the notice period time I'll start looking for more jobs, and that's what I did. I started applying because I think because in Bangalore one of the best parts is that I realized that okay, MNC setup is now not for me. I'm not that probably the best person in this situation. Let me try doing startups because they are very much consumer based. And I had a friend who worked at urban company at that time, not a designer, he's into marketing, and I understood the startup vibe of culture kya hota hai when you want to make a 0 to 1 product. And that's when I realized I want to apply to startups and I started doing that, and one of them was Cred. And so usme bhi as to how I got in, it was just a thing where I went on LinkedIn and I used to search product designers at Cred, product designers at Swiggy, और उसमें 4-5 जो सर्च रिजल्ट्स में नाम आ जाते थे और उनको फिर मैं अपना जो टॉप 5 लोग थे उनको मैं एक टेम्पलेट मैसेज भेजना शुरू कर दिया था. हाँ, तो सिंपल जो बेसिक तरीका है, मैंने कुछ ऐसे आउट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड नहीं करा इस चीज.
नहीं, दिस इज नॉट बेसिक. अतुल आल्सो डिड द सेम थिंग, राइट? उसने व्हाट्सएप के थ्रू किया हुआ है, बट दिस इज नॉट, पीपल डोंट नो दिस ट्रिक, राइट? सो पीपल डोंट अंडरस्टैंड द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ लॉन्ग टर्म कनेक्शंस, राइट? And this thing, this formula works everywhere. And as Gujaratis, we have been using this for years. Like you go to a shop, the reason they talk to you every day, how are you, is not they want to know. It's to build a long-term relationships, which obviously will get kind of something like they don't do it purpose, but that's the formula, right? But same thing. Twitter pe, if I want to get into in the industry, I would just follow top 5 people, start interacting with their everyday
interacting
tweets.
with them.
And then that people understand how powerful that is when people remember your face. Then there's this guy called Rahul who is replying on my tweets. The next time they see you somewhere where they like are there, they see, oh, I know this guy. Even though they don't know, but that variety is very important.
But that is a very very good point. I think because a lot of us are very very scared to take that step because हमें लगता है अरे यार, should I do this or should I not do this? But it's not even about being shameless. I'm just like कि bro, वो भी आदमी इंसान ही है, तो it's totally
So
fine.
be shameless. Worst case
Just
scenario
be
क्या ही होगा?
shameless.
क्या
क्या
हो
ही हो
जाएगा worst case
जाएगा,
scenario
रिप्लाई
में?
नहीं करेगा. और तो आई, दैट्स व्हाट आई डिड. लाइक मैंने भी क्रेड में 5 लोगों को मैसेज किया. द पर्सन टू रिप्लाई टू मी वाज अतुल खोला. वो बाकी 4 का नाम नहीं लूंगा, बट दे नेवर रिप्लाइड. उनको मैंने क्रेड में आके बताया कि बाय द वे मैंने मैसेज किया था आपको. तो इट वाज, या, आई थिंक इट वाज जस्ट अ टेम्पलेट मैसेज दैट आई हैड शेयर्ड and I had sent it to Atul. And yeah, Atul was the first person who replied to me. And I remember, I so clearly remember this. मैंने कुछ दिन में भेजा है वो message. Hey Atul, loved Cred. Yeah, love everything about it. Love what you guys are doing. And here's my portfolio, by the way, in case you guys are looking for something. I remember like going to bed that night, 1 a.m. pe. And that's when he had replied to me, hey Vitthal, I think your portfolio is dope. There is one project that has a password on it. Can you let me know the password of this as well? Oh no, sorry. अरे sorry, story में एक चीज तो बताना ही भूल गया. हाँ. So I had written, hi Atul, this is my A. And he had immediately replied with this message saying, hey, honestly, love your work, but we are not looking for any designers right now. But what you can do is, you're always look out for great designers. Here's the Design Mafia ka email that you should go ahead and apply to. So I was like, okay, I'll send it on this one also regardless. And then रात को 1 बजे, I think when he properly would have seen my portfolio, then he messaged me and said that, hey, I think your portfolio is dope. You should send it to us on this email. And मैंने immediately उस समय रात को, I just sent that email to him. And I think उसके बाद I 2 days later messaged him, hey, listen, I had emailed this portfolio on it. And he immediately replied to me. It was an office day. I'm pretty sure he was in office that day. And he said, give me 5 minutes. And he said, give me your number. And I said, अच्छा ठीक है. I think in 10 minutes he called me and he said that, hey, listen, I just showed your portfolio to people around over here. They really, really liked it. What do you do? Karte kya ho yaar tum? Then I said, acha, theek hai. That's the first I was talking to him.
US
and
mein internships,
but properly. And Atul Khola was a celebrity at that point of time. Or he had established himself as...
He is.
Right now, he's God level. So us samay he was proper pixel and pump. And I was like, oh shit, Atul is talking to me at this time. And yeah, and the sweetest person, like, I know, honestly, there's nothing, no comparison to who he is. And I talked to him and he said that, kya karte ho? Why do you want to join Cred? Ye wo. He had a basic, get to know call with me. Template, but it was just one of those calls where I genuinely felt very nice, because I was interviewing at everywhere and everyone was so sweet, but this felt very heart to heart. Like everywhere else there was a process. Okay, the HR will call you at this time. Ye hoga. This was just like as if do dost baat kar rahe. हाँ 5 minute रुक जाओ, call करता हूँ. He took my number and just talking to me out of nowhere. So the whole process felt very personal to me. And I was just like, acha, this was a very nice call. And I think in like a week, they started the process of me interviewing. Then I had 3 interviews. And in the 3 interviews that I did, I kind of realized, wait, abhi tak to koi design test hua hi nahi hai. At the 3rd interview, I kind of like asked the HR, hey, is there a whiteboarding round or a test round or anything? And she's like, no, test Cred, we don't have tests or anything. We just want to talk to you. And if we vibe with you, that's all that we care about. So I was like, what does that mean? So then she said, I was like, interview to main bhi acha ho sakta hu. Everyone can be nice in interviews. And she's like, no, the idea is that you have shared your portfolio with us. We trust that you have yourself made that. And that's it. Now what we are looking for in the interview is whether you will gel in this society or like the company that we have. We want to hire not just talented people, we want to hire good people. And that's what the interviews are for. You should fit into the culture, and that's what matters. And that's when I kind of realized in the 3 interviews that I had, we barely talked about my work or Cred. We just talked about design and random things in general. What do you like to do? Acha, movies kaun si dekhi hai? And that's when I kind of realized that the team that is being built over here and the reason the team exists of Cred today is because not only the fact that they are one of the most talented people I've come across, is because genuinely dil se bahut achhe log hai yaar ye. And I think that interview round of talking to people clears that out for him. And I think 4th round, HR called me. I was like, oh, up to will be the final round. I remember the HR calling me and saying, hey, I think the guys want to have a 4th round also with you. So I was like, oh, and then they were like, 4 or 5 of them will come together and take your last round. I was like, oh, acha, theek hai. And last round had Atul also in it. Last round had Nandini also in it. I remember there was Hari. There was all these people in the interview. And in that one round, again, I thought it was like they asked me ki thoda portfolio dikha do, because in 3 rounds they haven't even asked me to show the portfolio. There was no portfolio round. In that, I think they just realized कि बस कैसे portfolio भी देख लेते हैं, and then they went through my portfolio for like 15 minutes. And after that, it was just again talking and all. And at the end, Atul just told me, like the HR who works there, Lakshmi, he's like, Lakshmi will get in touch with you. And but that's the story. That's how I got through. And then it was just like, I think in 2 weeks I joined.
Good vibe, you need to join Cred. There's these two things.
Yeah, I think those two things are very, very important. Yeah, I think that's how I got in. And and now if you want to know like how is Cred, I think there's I am still in awe of, I tell a lot of people that this company spoils you. It's not about spoiling you like, oh, ye kar denge, wo kar denge. You have yourself in your mind set up a standard of what a workplace should be, what an environment of people should be, that you want to surround yourself with not just good human beings, but really talented people. And now I feel like I'm touchwood and very happy about it. By God's grace, I'm in an area where I'm surrounded by such amazing people. And it's not easy to find people who are just talented, but they're also very good people. So I think that place is just, I feel like at a very young age, I've been around such people. And I feel like a lot value of this, I will never ever forget. And I think it's just, on top of that, you have really cool work to do. And on top of that, you have someone like Harish Bhai who's guiding the whole vision. Yeah. So once you have someone like him, because I'll be very honest, like Cred is the way it is today is because of that person. It's Harish Bhai. I mean, there's barely any words for the person he is. It's because वो बोलते हैं ना, I think Steve Jobs की movie में he had a great quote where Steve Jobs says, everyone else musicians play the instrument, I play the orchestra. He is that person who plays the orchestra. It's his vision that we are all just a part of, I feel, and we are trying to fulfill it. And multiple reasons, I feel like I've never been in a workplace like this, and I'll probably barely find a workplace like this. So it's one of those things. Yeah.
It's tough. Like, I feel once you work there, right, you're like, ab kahan jayenge?
Yeah.
Because ab,
yeah, it is one of those things. It is one of those things.
Like, ab to yaar maza nahi aayega.
Like, for me, I can spend years and years over here, but then I also feel like, bro, आगे भी move on करना है life में, ये भी करना है, वो करना है. But it's just because you're always chasing something which you feel like, okay, this is the benchmark, or this fill up that. And I think this place has clearly done that. So, yeah.
But I think for you, there would obviously, like, this is India we're talking, you can always go out and
of course. Yeah, of course. There's multiple avenues regardless. But
I mean, again, as anyone who comes from brand to product, right? I obviously feel they have better, more opportunities than product designers, because they now can they have one more advantage which they can take and go into it, and marketing again, right? So
of course,
that's really cool. So could happen. You working, I think, from there, what 1.5 years? I'm saying 2 years.
I just completed 2 years yesterday.
Oh, congratulations! I think 2 years.
Thank
Party
you.
But coming
back to
so we'll definitely catch up. But yeah, I think this is good. Now tell us the story of building that slot game, right? And like, how was that whole vibe? Because that's gonna be the clickbait which I'm gonna use.
I think it was just so I had been obviously part of, like, I had joined Cred like during my previous job, and I had seen that time only like ye kya macha rahe log bro, ye kaisi app hai, how all of that. And I feel like that was my first project in Cred. It's called Bid Blast. And it started with the idea of that it was called auctions, like in the beginning. Like internally we wanted to do a project that has to do with auctions a lot, like we'll host auctions on the Cred store. And Atul was the one who was leading it, and he said that I would love to have you join this project with me. And I said, okay, perfect, great. I think that was my first project. And I just remember like going back home and thinking कि अच्छा भी first project है, I'm surrounded by people in Cred. अब तो यहाँ पे prove करने का time आ गया. अभी तक सिर्फ portfolio is what got me in. Now I have to prove with my work. So I just remember that day clearly, and I dialed back to my way of taking inspiration. I started seeing movies like Big Shot and all of these places where, you know, auctions के बारे में बहुत videos है. Tried teaching myself
but
with
the
the
pressure,
real life
right?
scenario.
Now that you're talking about the pressure of joining a company.
Yeah. And then उसके बाद it's वहाँ पे ये perform करना है, पहला project. It's unmatched. It's unmatched. It was, I remember because he just asked. I remember like first 2 weeks I had no work because like naya aadmi abhi kya kaam dena hai. So I was very chill. I remember the second week mein Atul just walked to me and he said, "Hey, you want to go for a coffee bahar balcony mein?" I was like, "Haan, sure." And that's when he sat me down and he said, "Acha ho gaya 2 hafte chill. Ab kaam ka time aa gaya hai. So we have a project for you." And he said that this is the project. And I said, "Haan, of course." On the face I properly was like very very happy, but internally hearts of heart mein I was terrified because I was like, अब now it is time to create stuff. अब Figma खोलने की बारी आ गई है.
Yeah, here in this now, if you done test right, you at least have something. हाँ, मेरा काम देख लिया. They like the काम me doing work also. At least कुछ यहाँ पे
very very
3 week हो गए हैं. Calls हो रहे हैं, सब हो गया. अब वो बोले काम करो. अब like इन लोगों ने जब वाइब पे हायर किया था, अगर काम नहीं निकला होगा तो
correct. That is and I feel like everyone who joins Cred as a designer, I think they all of them go through this immensely कि हाँ bro मेरे को तो बस vibe पे hire किया था I think और portfolio देखा था. Now they'll actually see me execute stuff. And I think it's the beautiful hiring that they do, and everyone they've always killed it when it comes to their first projects. And I feel like that was the machine wala project. I remember it was called Auctions. So I educated myself with a lot of movies on auctions and videos on auctions and ye sab cheezein. Started seeing live auctions ke videos kaise hote hain and everything. And so I remember like I had created this area where I was just like, UI ko chodo. Let me just remove the idea of CTAs and buttons and entry fields. If I have to design an auction, what will I do? So I remember actually on the screen in the iPhone ka screen, and I remember I created an auction ka scene. I made this whole idea of like seats in front of you. The product that will be auctioned will be on a stage. I had made a stage. Uspe product aayega, and then people will start auctioning. And what I did was at that point of time, my thought process was that we'll use the gyro and all of this on your phone. We'll make it like maine dimag mein brand campaign bhi soch liya tha. Iska kya hoga that to bid the auction, you have to raise your phone ऐसे. So you enter an amount 500 and like office में like लोग randomly बस अपना phone ऐसे ऊपर करेंगे. And like people like अच्छा ये auctions खेल रहा है Cred पे. So
yeah,
I remember like
that's a good campaign. Look,
that was
funny
like
but
the
good
thing that I wanted to do. Yeah, कि मतलब ऐसे किसी का phone उठेगा वो ये Cred पे ये खेल रहा है. So that was something I had come up with.
Yeah.
And then उसके बाद I remember like this was the fun bit, and I remember it was very very well appreciated. By the peers, by everyone. And then uske baad I remember there was the first call that I had with Harish Bhai, where unko mere ko dikhana tha, me and Atul had to go to him and show him the work. And that was the first time I was also in face-to-face in front of him. I remember it was a 1.5 hour feedback ka call where he talked about n number of things. And I think what that call made me realize was that, like it was a call as in meeting, it was in person only. But it made me realize was that because he went down to the basics of auction, ki auction kaise chalta hai, and the way the product was actually forming and the idea of what the product was very much lacking the foundation and love for what an auction does. So he came up with this idea that ye auction nahi hai guys, this is something else. And that's when I kind of realized that मैंने बस word auction पढ़ा और मैं ऐसे train में चढ़ गया कि auction बनाना है that I totally forgot the basic idea of what this product is trying to do. And remember that 1.5 hour में वो आता है ना कि भाई ये क्या आदमी है bro, इसने क्या बोल दिया. It was just one of those moments where I was just like, I remember coming back home to my girlfriend, I told her, I think I had one of the most I all for 1.5 hours I've heard about how auctions work, but I feel like I had missed the complete plot in my research of how I should have thought of it. So that's when we kind of realized that this product is something else. It's not exactly auctions, it's this is that. And that's when we came up with the idea of calling it Bid Blaster. It's a bidding product, but it has something else to do with the whole process. And yeah, that's when I came up with this idea कि अगर चलो बनाना है, तो I'll make it the way I want to. And if it's a game, why not make it look like an actual game? Like when I used to go to Amoeba and all of these video game places. I used to take money from my parents to go and play like slot machines, mein Mortal Kombat, Tekken at all these video game stores. So I was like, that fun was something else altogether. So the idea of Bid Blast is like a lot of people on live are together playing that game. So why not like make it feel like multiple people together are playing on slot machines at one point of time, just like how it is happening in a casino. So that's when I realized that the UI of this entire product visually should look like there's a slot machine in front of you or like a gaming arcade machine, and you are playing this game on that. And I think that idea, that is where I feel like Cred is Cred. It was never questioned that way. It was just considered, if this is your vision as a new designer, juniorist designer who's just entered, if you feel like this is the right vision for you, you go ahead and make it. and I made sure मैं इतने options बनाऊं to make sure that they understand. And I feel like on the first day only they said कि इसी तरीके से बनेगा, it's okay, you go ahead. And that time you also doubt कि अरे bro, and because this is the first time the product is going to go live. अभी तक all the products that I've made, for example in Accenture, it is used by a lot of people who are in Accenture. I'm never going to talk to that consumer who's using it because these are high level power users who are working at enterprises. This is normal customer. मेरे side पे दोस्त के पास Cred की app है, he's going to use this. So I think the pressure of that came to me much later, midway when the development was happening. And that is where I'll give the idea and shout out to the kind of developers we have at Cred. I feel like I remember the first Bedbask का जो rendition, जो developed version आया था, it was one of those things where I genuinely felt like shit, इसने तो literally लग रहा है Figma mirror पे खोला है ये, because it was that crystal clear. So the developers at Cred literally bring like we just imagine things and they just bring things to life.
Yeah. Now that you talk about this, I don't think they get enough credit, right? Like
They
till
do.
now, to be honest,
I
yeah. Till now, I always used to say कि क्या मस्त design करते हैं, but I never talked about कि develop भी तो कर रहे हैं.
Yeah,
that is also a different thing, no?
Our designs are just designs on a Figma screen if they are not brought to life, and it's all kudos and credits to those guys, yeah. And now though it has reached to a stage where they are like कि हम अरे इसमें ये क्यों नहीं कूद रहा है, where is the jazz bro, where is the ये bro. So now तो developers are always so
ये बहुत simple है bro.
ये बहुत simple है, इसमें बसा कहाँ है. I'm like अच्छा अब तू ये बोल रहा, अब तो तू देख मैं क्या बनाऊंगा. तो then it just comes to that where
it's a healthy competition.
It's a very healthy competition. It's a beautiful place to be in, because see what I've kind of understood at a very level that I feel like Kunal and Harish bhai have and other people have really they see that, oh, we've created a great company as Cred, but I feel like something that they really need to be commended on is that they've hired the people who in hearts of heart, not just designers, let's just talk about developers, product managers, business people, everyone just really strives to make a beautiful product. And I feel like that thing is very much within everyone at Cred. So when we talk to developers, especially if I talk to them about, they are always striving ki bro, अच्छा it's never someone, no one wants to do आलस कि यार अच्छा ये अभी जल्दी से शिप कर लेते हैं और ये बना लेते हैं. There will always be a question how to make this even better. And they will question us as designers also.
I think I can put this in this way now that I like talk about this is के Cred में कोई बंदा सिर्फ काम करने के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा है.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Everyone is just striving to make a beautiful
every
product.
morning. Yeah.
And I think
also, I mean, like, customer feedback you get.
Of course, all those things so for sure is there. But it's just this thing, I feel like I will always commend Harish bhai, Kunal and these guys that you've created a company where people come to work to genuinely create something beautiful. And I think that is something that you really respect for everyone who's there in the company. So hats off to everyone here who works over here. And that's where I feel like developers should get their due, because they bring things to life the way we imagine. And yeah, I think that's when the Bit Blast happened, and yeah, that was the slot machine, and I got to work with it on with it Atul ke saath, and that was my introduction to it. But before my introduction to Atul was this Instagram personality jiske paas 6-pack abs and he's a great designer. And now for me, I got to know him at a
before design we can argue कि यार दिन में बैठे रहते हैं, हमारा काम ही है ये, तो नहीं होंगे 6 apps, अब वो भी दिखा के now we can use that excuse.
हाँ, it's like एक point के बाद you're just like कि bro और ज्यादा चीजें करने की जरूरत नहीं है लाइफ में.
रुक जा, बन गया अच्छा प्रोडक्ट, बन गया अच्छी बॉडी, बन गई अच्छी वेबसाइट, अब रुक जा भाई, अब फिर कमेटी बनानी है,
उसके बाद मीम्स भी डाल रहे हैं. हाँ, I know.
अरे यार मीम्स में तो यार I don't know when he has the time to watch those older movies and just make memes out of it.
Make memes out of it. I know.
It's just but yeah. But I think this covers most of the stuff we're gonna know. I think I have for 1 hour. I don't take much of a time, but yeah, this is a great story. I think when you hear it, feels very simple. That you know what? Went to design college, went to Accenture first job, and then Cred. But understanding from that a kid whose family is into CAs and like they have the structure, the pressure, then how migrations go, you know what, I want to get into this. It's a different story, right? People take, like this is why I love to this episode, is that I understand that even though our stories in a way are similar, right? Both accounts, left CAs, headed into design.
And I'm very glad to hear that. Like, by the way.
But the pressure you had is much higher than I had. Because if I failed, nobody was that much worried, because I could always get back in my father's business. I mean, so to give you a bit of a backstory, Before I got into design, I worked for 3.5 years as a purchase manager in a real estate company. So I know how builders work, real estate, engineers, civil engineers, all that I understood. So it's like अगर design नहीं किया, नहीं मिली नौकरी, नहीं हुआ कुछ भी काम, I can always come back here. Option है. Right? So that pressure is still like थोड़ा सा कम, but in your case, अगर नहीं हुआ
it was like I feel like everyone has their, it was just like everyone has their
different journey,
but different perspective. But yeah, like it was something where I didn't know what else to do in life, honestly, and it was just something that I caught on. अच्छा यही है, किसी career counselor ने बोल दिया है, इसको पकड़े रहो, and yeah, hopefully I was able to make it that way.
I think I'm gonna take the career counselor form up फिर से एक बार. I'm gonna take that test to see if I was right or not. Then let me just check.
अगर उसमें CA आ गया तो बच सुन रहा उसकी, ठीक है ना?
It's really fun, but I gotta check it out. But thank you, Vitthal, for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was just genuinely a very, very good time. Honestly, more than I feel like podcasts and all of that, it's just getting to know you as a person and talking to you. I've been following you since forever.
Content सारा बहाना ही है. I'm just enjoying myself.
कर सके,
मैं तो see, it's easier to get people here than कि like bro चल catch up करते हैं. कोई नहीं मिल रहा था.
Correct.
Content, even my audience knows it. And this guy is just doing it कि खुद बात करनी है इसको तो लेके आ रहा है इसको. But before we close this, any advice if you have for new designers who want to become like, or new people who want to become designers?
One, as I said in this whole thing, don't look to basic stuff to look at inspiration. I feel like inspiration is in there's other fields of design. Please look at that. I cannot stress on that enough. And something that we covered also, that genuinely just talk to people. I feel like I have now जाके, because थोड़ा सा it becomes very difficult, so I make sure that I actually try to message a lot of people on LinkedIn, reply back to a lot of people on LinkedIn. Sometimes I don't get to, but most of the, at least 85% of the cases I try to do that, because I feel like someone was there for me. I'm talking about Atul in this case, who replied to me back, and it helped me. So I feel like everyone is trying to, it's a design as an industry in India is very close-knit and very small. And I feel like everyone is trying to help each other. So don't be afraid to actually messaging the person who you feel like might actually be out there helping for you, out of stress or scare ki, "Arey, what if this person doesn't reply?" Ye nahi karega, to as I said, product designers at Cred, 5 hai, 5 mein se ek na ek to reply karega hi karega. So go ahead and actually make that approach. There are kind people out there who will help you. So don't be afraid, I think. And yeah, I think just stay the way you are. That's basically it. Yeah.
Thank you, Vitthal. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'm gonna put all your links in the description so people can reach look at your work.
Awesome.
They are already looking, if they're using Cred, they see your work every single day, right? And that's the only way we burn those coins. But I'll also put your Twitter and everything so people can reach out to you and if they have any questions on that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
That. But yeah, bro, I am addictive. Like I know I can get 10 chances of burning my coins, right? I don't care कि result क्या मिल रहा है. But I just want to do something with them. So I just press 10 times. I'm just playing के ले जाओ. कुछ तो करो इसको. But thank you, Vitthal. Thank you so much for coming. We'll talk about this बाद में. But thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.